Several entities in Greater Mankato area have banded together to optimize their economic growth. KEYC News Now's Randall Gim learns how a trip to Ireland is helping shape the future of the local economy.
Greater Mankato Growth's Economic Development Director Ryan Vesey and St. Peter City Council member Carrie Johnson participated in a trip to Ireland with the goal of economic growth. Vesey explains why Ireland.
And then when we look at Minnesota and Irish relationships in particular, Minnesota's sixth largest purchaser of goods is Ireland. And similarly, on the other side, Ireland is one of the largest exporters to Minnesota.
It's that established relationship that Johnson believes can be built upon in this area.
And we also wanted to make connections with the businesses that are hoping to expand to the U.S.
Johnson said they showcased how the Nicollet and Blue Earth County areas are equipped to house new businesses in an already growing environment.
Our region is already so vibrant, but you have to do the work to continue to ensure that vibrancy.
Which Vesey says is why Nicollet County, Blue Earth County, and some cities within have formed the Regional Economic Development Alliance back in 2009.
And that allows us to make sure that we're moving in a direction that's the same direction as the cities are moving in, and we can all row that boat together.
Johnson says this trip was paid for with taxpayer dollars in hopes of a return on investment.
It's going to create jobs. It's going to make young people want to stay here, live here, work here. It's all about sustainability and smart growth and ensuring that our region is a great place to live.
Reporting for KEYC News Now, I'm Randall Gim.
The Regional Economic Development Alliance is holding a conference October 21st, primarily for educational, governmental, and local organizations that want to learn more about the economic development plan.